Well, good morning, everybody. Craig, back at you once again. 2018 Honda Goldwing, you know the drill. Out and about, just picked up my bike from the dealership. Had a little bit of work done to it. Cool day today for Buffalo, New York. 45 degrees, but it is sunny, so that's good. Got that going for us. I first want to say thank you to my subscribers. I think I'm somewhere around 550 subscribers or close to it, plus or minus a few. I just want to thank all of you that take the time to watch the videos and subscribe to the videos or subscribe to the channel. It really makes a big difference that anyone is really interested in, the things that you say when you're motor vlogging, you're out here. So again, thank you for watching the videos. Thank you for being a subscriber, and we look forward to bringing you additional videos, as the days go on, as the months go on. So out and about today, picking up my bike, a little bit cool. Got my heated gear on, even though it's 43. That's cool for me. I don't like being cold at all. So I got the full Monty. I've got the jacket, the pants, the gloves, and I even put the foot liners in, trying those out to see how they feel. It's the first time putting those on. And just on my way home now, the thought that came to mind, I was watching one of my favorite channels, which is Boots and Jeans Riders, and with Rich and Cake, and they put up a video last week talking about dealing with the police. And I watched Rich on that video, and I really don't have anything contrary to say to what he said. He gave some great tips. For the motor vloggers, for people that have cameras, he even suggested if you have interaction with the police on your motorcycle, record the whole thing, which I'm 100% for. So I really can't say anything that he said that I disagree with. I like it all, and I'll even try to throw a link to that video up here if I can figure out how to do that. I'll try to do that so you can take a look. Take a look at their channel. They have really good content. But I wanted to bring you a different perspective along the same topic. He really inspired me with the topic. And the reason I bring that topic up is dealing with law enforcement. Law enforcement and riding your motorcycle, law enforcement, and just driving your passenger vehicle. And where my level of expertise comes in to play in this is, I don't know that I've ever mentioned this, but I'll mention it now. I am a retired New York State Trooper. I was a New York State Trooper for 28 years and retired from the job. Loved the job. So I have a certain perspective, from the other end, from the person that's doing the pulling over, the law enforcement end, as far as, vehicle stops and your interactions with law enforcement, specifically when it comes to, we're really talking about traffic violations when we're talking about motorcycles and cars. So I wanted to bring my perspective and maybe kind of some tips that might help you out of a ticket. Maybe you don't get out of the ticket. Some things that you might do that are definitely going to get you a ticket. The first thing, let me answer the question that I get asked throughout my career. This is the number one question that I get asked, or was asked, and even to this day I'm asked. How fast can I really go? So on this road I'm on right now, the speed limit's 50 miles an hour. So the number one question is, how fast can I really go? Am I safe if I do 5 miles an hour, if I do 55, if I do 57, if I do 61, how fast can I really go when I'm out there? And I answer it, the simple answer, the fastest you can go is 50. If the speed limit's 50, the fastest you can go is 50. That's the safe answer. And the reason why I can't give you a definitive answer is because it really is up to every officer's discretion. So on a road like this, it might be 50 miles an hour. Now, if I'm working, I might say, okay, if somebody's going, if somebody's going 60, 61, 62, I'm going to pull that person over. That's a little bit too fast. It's over the speed limit. But let's say I use I'm going to use 62. I'm riding, I'm working, somebody's going 62, I'm going to pull that person over. Now, a different officer that I work with might say, hey, 59 is fast enough, not 62, that's too fast, or 63 or 65. 59 is fast enough. So you might get pulled over going 59. There might be some officers that say 57, 56. You know, it's 50. I'm gonna give you 5 miles. That's my discretion, and I'm gonna pull you over. So there really is no clear cut. If you go this speed, you're not gonna get the ticket unless you are maintaining the speed limit. So I will say, and again, in this video, I will give you out of my experience from what I've done and what I've seen other officers do that I work with. If the speed limit's 50, I don't ever recall me working with anybody or myself being in the car where we're pulling somebody over for going 55 or 56, maybe 57. It's just, usually we don't do that. So to answer that question, the only safe thing you can do is go the speed limit. Would I pull you over for going over 5 miles an hour over the speed limit? Probably not. But there might be an officer that will, and they're perfectly within their rights to do it. They're perfectly within their discretion to do it. So I would just say keep to the speed limit. Bottom line is I never really pulled anybody that was going 5 or 6 miles an hour over. Other question I get concerning motorcycle operators. Do the police target motorcycle operators? Do they don't like bikes, or they don't like sports bikes, or they don't like Harleys, or they don't like this? In my experience, and again, I talk for the people that, not only my experience, but people I've worked with, people that I've been in the car with as we're pulling over people. The police could care less what you're operating. They don't care if you're operating a motorcycle. They don't care if you're operating a car. If you're speeding, you're speeding. There's nothing that I've seen, at least in my area, there's a prejudice against sport bike operators, so they're gonna attempt to be pulled over. No, it's usually just if you're speeding or you're doing something reckless, you know, that's going to cause you to get pulled over. So there is no bias toward motorcycles. Again, here in New York, I think there's only one state or maybe 2 states where you can lane filter. So there's no written lane filtering. You might, if you do that in New York, you might get pulled over. But again, I think everyone that lives in New York every motorcycle operator realizes that you take that risk if you try to lane split. In Western New York, you don't really see that too much. Maybe in the populated cities, New York City, you might see a lot of lane splitting. But those are the only 2 things. Speeding and lane splitting, maybe you'll get you pulled over. But there really is no bias just to go out and get motorcycle operators. And in saying that, let me take us a little further. If you are operating a motorcycle and the police go to pull you over, they activate their lights, pull over. There is, and I know most of my audience, most of my subscribers and viewers are probably a little bit older, and they don't run from the police on their motorcycles. The younger people have a tendency, not all of them, very small few, have a tendency to risk it. Nothing good ever comes out of you trying to run away on a motorcycle from the police department. There is absolutely nothing good that comes out of it. I have seen multiple fatal accidents, because someone on a motorcycle decided that they weren't going to pull over when the police went to pull them over. And it really was a baseless loss of life, or baseless, serious injuries. Because when you got right down to it, okay, why did the person run? The person ran because they didn't have a motorcycle license. The person ran because they didn't have insurance. The person ran because, their license was suspended. People don't run away on motorcycles away from police because they've just robbed a bank or they just committed a murder. You would think that, all right, they're just taking off. They're going like a bat out of hell. They're going 110 miles an hour, 130 miles an hour down the thruway or right on the expressway. They really must have done something serious. And then at the end of the day, when you find out what it was, it's you didn't have a motorcycle license. Okay, you didn't have a motorcycle license. You're probably going to get a ticket, but you're alive and you're not injured. So pull over. It's not worth it, risking your life. I even remember one accident where the motorcycle operator must have assumed that the police officer, the trooper, was going to pull them over, and then took off and ended up crashing. And it was a fatal accident. And the trooper wasn't even going after the motorcycle operator. He was not pulling that person over at all. So just if you're a young person, the police go to pull you over, just pull over. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about some things that can help mitigate your circumstances so that you might get out of a ticket, or if you don't get out of a ticket, maybe you get not as bad of a ticket as you could have gotten. So I'm riding down the road on my motorcycle. I'm in my car. I'm going a little bit over the speed limit or whatever it is. I'm going over the speed limit. And we've all had this happen. You see that officer parked there. As soon as you go by, you see that officer pull up. Now, a lot of us, your heart drops, your stomach drops. That guy's coming after me. I've been a police officer for 28 years. It even happens to me. If I all of a sudden I'm riding by an officer and they pull over, I'm like, uh-oh. Now, if you know, and let's just be realistic. If you know you were speeding, just pull over. Don't wait for the officer to chase you down, to get right up on you, to hit his lights. Just pull over to the side of the road. One of two things is going to happen. The officer's going to pull up behind you, putting his lights on because he was coming after you. A second thing that can happen is maybe it wasn't you. Maybe there's other people speeding, and they're going after somebody else. You pull over to the side of the road, the officer goes right by you. But the reason I say just pull over, don't wait for the officer to get all the way up on you and turn his lights on, is because if you're going, let's say you're going 80 miles an hour on the expressway, and that's what the officer clocks you at, and you don't pull over. Now you know you got a good feeling he's coming after you. You don't pull over. Now that officer has to go 80, 90 miles an hour just to catch up to you. And even if you slow down, all right, I was going 80, I dropped it down to 65 because I think he's coming after me. The officer still got to go 80 miles, 90 miles an hour to catch up to you to pull you over. Most officers take offense to that. If you know I'm coming after you, why are you putting my safety at risk, me having to drive 90 miles an hour to catch up to you when you knew I was coming after you? Just pull over to the side of the road. If you do that, the officer, and I can speak from experience, is more likely to give you a break or maybe not even write you a ticket because you pull over to the side of the road and like, I was going a little fast. And he appreciates that he didn't have to chase you down for a mile and a half to pull you over. When you do get pulled over, I think like Rich said, turn your bike off. If you're taking a motorcycle, turn your bike off. Put it on its kickstand. Make sure it doesn't fall over like Memphis Mike's bike fell over when he got pulled over by the police. I'm just joking with him because I dropped my bike a bunch of times too. Put your bike on the kickstand and just put your hands up on the handlebars where the officers can see your hands. I would also say when the officer comes up, what I would do is just ask the officer, do you want me to take my helmet off or not? And the reason I say that is most of the time the officer's gonna ask you for your license. He might want to be able to look in your face so he can verify that's the same picture that you're the same picture that's on the license. He might not be able to do that with your helmet on. So some officers will say, yeah, take your helmet off. Some officers will be like, nah, just keep your helmet on. Let me tell you what will guarantee you a ticket. If you get pulled over, and the minute that you get pulled over, you have an attitude or you start arguing. If you say, what the hell are you pulling me over for? I wasn't speeding. I wasn't this. I'm telling you, you are guaranteeing yourself a ticket. If not multiple tickets. You are guaranteeing yourself a ticket. Most of the time, believe this or not, most of the time when an officer pulls you over, unless you're just doing something totally reckless, he hasn't really made up his mind whether he's going to write you a ticket or not. He's going to go up and he's going to see how the interaction is. Now, if you pulled over and you say, listen, I was going a little fast or whatever, I didn't realize. Maybe you just didn't even realize. I didn't realize I was going that fast. Going a little fast. I normally don't go that fast, A lot of officers are more inclined to give you a break, whether they don't write you a ticket or they write you a ticket for something else. And when I say write you a ticket for something else, what I mean is a lot of times there's things on your vehicle that technically officers know. Let's say there's things on your vehicle. Let's say your license, I'm going by New York State law. Let's say your license plate is just filthy. It's dirty. It's hard to see the letters on it. That's a violation. Now, the officer might say, listen, I could give you a ticket for going 80, and I could give you a ticket for a dirty license plate where it's hard to see the letters. I'm just going to give you a ticket for a dirty license plate because you pulled over, because you did this, it'll be a small fine. The most important thing, it doesn't affect your insurance. It doesn't put any points on your license. So the officer's giving you a break. Let me tell you something that will never work. An excuse will never, ever, 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 ever work. I was just going with the flow of traffic. I don't know, officer, I don't know what speed limit is, but I was just going with everybody else is going. Everybody else is going that way. That's fast as I was going. That's not going to work. What I call the flow of traffic is the big lottery. If it's if it's speed limit 65 and everybody's going 80, you just put yourself in the lottery. You might not get pulled over. And there's probably times where you were out on the road and you thought you were going to get, the trooper pulls out or the deputy pulls out. They're coming barreling down. You're like, this is it, this is it, this is it. And they pass right by you, and all of a sudden you can breathe because they went by you, and they pull over the car that was 2 cars ahead of you. Now, the reason they did that, because everybody is going, fast. So the officer uses his radar or laser most of the time this time, and he picks which car he's going to pull over, because everybody's going fast. So you just won the lottery. You're all going fast. You didn't get pulled over. Somebody else got pulled over, but you won the lottery. But there's going to be a time when you lose that lottery, when everybody's going 80, and you're the one guy that gets pulled over instead of the 5 of you that were in a group. Don't complain. Most of the time you win that lottery, but this time you lost the lottery. The best way to do it is don't even enter the lottery. Don't go that fast. It will never, ever work. Your excuse of, I was just going as fast as everybody else was going. I was keeping up with traffic. That's not going to help you. Let me tell you another excuse that's not going to help you. That's probably going to give you a ticket. I only went that speed because I was passing another car. Yeah, I got up to 80, 85 miles an hour because I had to pass. I was just passing. That's all I was doing. Well, most officers will tell you if the speed limit's 65 and you had to go 85 to pass, then you shouldn't have been passing. Because the chances are, if the speed limit's 65, and the reason you're going 85 is because the car that you're trying to pass is going 65 or 70. You don't have to go 85 to pass a car. If that car was going super slow, he was going like a turtle, oh my God. Well, if he was going 50, then you wouldn't have to get up to 85 to pass him. That excuse never works. I was just passing. So I got up to 85 or whatever it is, some insane speed, because I was passing. That's not going to work. I would rather, you're better off saying, listen, I got impatient. I hit it a little bit and got up there. And officers will be more realistic and be like, okay, I understand. But, I had to get up to that speed to pass somebody. Then you shouldn't have been passing. So, here's some things. So let's get back to the road. You get pulled over. Again, don't give those lame excuses. Another lame excuse I would never get because it never works. Guy was right on my butt. I was going 80 because he was pushing me. Well, that's not going to work because all you had to do is slow down. And I'm not talking about doing the passive-aggressive road rage kind of thing where you slam on your brakes because somebody's on your butt. If you slow down and you do the speed limit, the person behind you that's pushing you will go around you because they don't want to be behind you. And worst case scenario, if somebody's acting like a real jerk, I always tell people just pull over the side of the road. Even on the highway, just pull over the shoulder, let that dude go down the road, take 30 seconds, breathe. By that time, that person will be at least a half a mile or ahead of you, and then get back on the road and continue going where you're going. But I was being pushed. That's why I was doing 80 and a 65. That's not going to work either. So we're back at the scene. You're being pulled over. You've been pulled over. Just say what it is. Just say I was going a little fast, or I had to get here, I had to get there. Officers appreciate honesty, and if they appreciate honesty, they're more likely to give you a break instead of writing a ticket. Let's say you do get a ticket. All right, you're speeding. You're going 80. Again, I'm gonna keep using 80. You're going 80 and a 65. You get written a ticket for 80 and a 65. This is an advice I would give. Every state is different. Every area is different. So I can only speak for around here. What I would always tell people is, at least around in New York State, you never want to just plead guilty to it. Even if you were guilty. And they're saying, well, you're a cop saying you should never plead guilty. No, you shouldn't. I mean, if you have a decent driving record, plead not guilty. Many times the municipalities where you were speeding, if you have a decent, clean driving record, they will look to reduce that speeding charge to something else. And it is worth your while. It is worth a trip. Even if you have to go to court, it's worth a trip to get that speeding ticket reduced, so that you don't have to pay that fine, that higher fine, and you don't have to get those points on your license. So if you get a speeding ticket, what you want to do is you want to plead not guilty. Because what's the worst thing that can happen? You go in court and they find you guilty? All right, well, you were going to plead guilty anyway. So plead not guilty, go in and see what kind of reduction plea bargain that they might offer you, especially if you're not a person that has had a ton of tickets. when I was working the road, one of the things, another question I would get asked a lot are about radar detectors. Do they work? Yes and no. Before I became a police officer, I had a radar detector slash laser detector. Well, actually, it was radar back then. It just we didn't have laser yet. But I had a radar detector, and then after I became a police officer and I found out how radar and laser works, I just got rid of it. For the most part, your radar slash laser detectors are absolutely useless. And the reason I say that is when an officer is going to clock your speed with a laser, because that's what most departments use now, they use lasers, they have your speed before your laser detector even goes off. It's already registered the speed. And there's a couple things that officers do. It's not just a laser that they utilize to, write you a speeding ticket. They do a visual observation of how fast you're going, and you would say, well, how can somebody just look and tell how fast somebody's going? They train that, and believe it or not, once you do it long enough, you sit there and you visually estimate the speed of cars, you get very good at it. You get very good at looking at a car and being able to pick out that car is going, 72 miles an hour. And then you hit the laser and it's, 74, 75. Just think about it. Anything that you do basically all day, every day, or for the most part you do a lot, you're going to get very proficient at it. So an officer will visually estimate the speed of your car. Because the laser doesn't generate in the radar the same way, as long as you don't have them on going all constantly, they don't generate a pulse for your detector to pick up until you actually hit the button. Once you hit the button, it generates the pulse or the laser. It goes out. You get the speed of the car within a second. And then it's interesting. It's funny because all of a sudden you could always tell people that have radar detectors and laser detectors, because when I would sit there, I'd put laser. It's like playing a video game. You put the dot right on the grill of the car, and you hit it. I get the speed, and then all of a sudden you see the car take a big dip, because now the person is driving the car or the motorcycle operator, their laser detector's going off, and the natural reaction is to slam on your brakes. Your laser detector goes off, you slam on your brakes, and the car dips. And they quickly decelerate, slow the car down, and then by the time, when I go up to them, I would say, hey, again, let me use my 80 example. I got you a 180 and a 65. Oh, so I wasn't going 85 and a 65. I was going 70. And like, yeah, you slowed down to 70, and you slowed down to 60, 65, but when I got you, you were going 80. Well, when my radar detector went off, I was going this, and I was telling them, I had your speed before your radar detector went off. The only way, and when I say yes and no as far as radar detectors working, the caveat is if you were close enough and an officer hit his laser and on somebody else and it was able to pick up that there was laser in the area, okay, maybe that would help you out. I would guess there is a possibility that could help you out if you were close enough that your detector could pick up the beam of somebody else being clocked. So that's why I say there's one caveat. Could it work? Could it help you? It could in some aspect, but over the course of my career, I can't tell you how many thousands of tickets I've written to people that had radar detectors or laser detectors that, I even had one person that got mad and threw their radar detector out the window when I said, this dumb, stupid thing doesn't work. Well, it works, but just the way the technology is, it's not going to stop you from getting a ticket. The only thing that's going to stop you from getting a speeding ticket is to slow down. Lastly, thank you for listening to this long video. Let me tell you a little story about radar detectors. And I'll tell you why it's always good to have a good rapport with the police officer that pulls you over. I remember I was working in Syracuse. I was a young trooper. I was working on a Saturday morning. I clocked someone speeding, pulled the car over. A very nice young lady, I would say probably 21, 22 years old, I think college student. So she says to me, you normally don't speed, but if you have time for a story, I'm going to tell you what happened. I said, sure. I'm standing out here. Sure, tell me what happened. Well, I was riding down the road. She goes, I have a radar detector, and I realize that I don't speed. Now, this is what she's telling me. I have a radar detector. I realize that I don't speed. And as I'm riding down the road, I start to feel guilty that I have a radar detector. And I told myself, I don't speed. I don't need this. This is like throwing it in the face of law enforcement. So I go to reach and grab the radar detector off of my dashboard because I know I don't need it. And as I go to reach and grab it off of my dashboard, it slips out of my hand and falls on the floor. So now as it slips out of my hand and falls on the floor, I'm actually leaning forward to grab this radar detector that I don't need because I don't speed and I don't want to violate the law. And as I'm reaching forward to grab it off of the floor, my foot accidentally hits the accelerator and I'm speeding inadvertently by trying to get rid of this radar detector that I know I don't need because I don't speed. So I looked at her and she said, do you believe me? And I said, absolutely not for 1 second. I said, but that was the most creative story I've heard in a while, so I'm not going to give you a ticket. I said, just slow down. So I say all of this, everything that I've said all of this to say this, that if you're speeding, we all take chances. We speed, there's chances we're going to get a ticket. But a lot of it, I will say this again, a lot of it really depends on the interaction that you have with the officer as to what happens. So that's the end of my super long video. Once again, everyone, please be safe out there. Enjoy your summer as we get to summer. As I always say, get out, do whatever it is you want to do. If you want to ride motorcycles, ride your motorcycles. If you want to go hiking, go hiking. I don't think we can actually go boating right now. But whatever it is that you want to do to just get some activity, or you enjoy doing, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, take the time to enjoy life and enjoy yourself. So have a great day, everyone. God bless.